Hello. My name is Kathy. I'm here to welcome you on behalf of the Faculty of Arts to this wonderful event. Isn't it amazing that we all can be here together? I want to acknowledge that we live and work on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and neutral peoples, and that the University of Waterloo is situated on the Haldimand Tract, which was land promised to the Six Nations, and which includes 10 kilometers on each side of the beautiful Grand River. I would like to thank our co-sponsors, the Departments of History, the Department of Communication Arts, and the Waterloo Indigenous Student Centre. This series highlights the voices of Indigenous artists, writers, activists, and leaders from across Turtle Island, offering you Waterloo students, faculty, and staff opportunities to learn from, understand, and engage with Indigenous issues. I'm very pleased now to bring to the stage the Indigenous Student Centre's Drum Circle.
Thank you. Tatsene Totamak. Hello and welcome, friends. I'd like to welcome this evening Lee Maracle, who will be joined on the stage with Bill Coleman and Phil Strong. Phil Strong is an award-winning composer and sound designer working in film, dance, theater, and musical performance. Bill Coleman is a choreographer who has performed internationally with world-renowned companies and created a singular body of work that unites distant worlds in celebration of home, the natural and cultural environment, community, and the physical body itself. This year, Bill Coleman is a recent recipient of the prestigious Canada Council's Walter Carson Prize for Excellence in the Performing Arts. This award recognizes the highest level of artistic excellence and distinguished career achievement by a Canadian professional artist. Wow. Lee Maracle is a member of the Stola Nation. She was born in North Vancouver and is the grandmother of 4 and mother of 4. 7. She has been named to the Order of Canada for her contributions to Canada's literary landscape and for her influential voice in cultural relations between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples in Canada. As one of Canada's bravest literary voices, Lee Maracle's work includes the novels Raven Song, Bobby Lee, The Sundogs, the short story collection Sojourner's Truth, poetry collections including Bent Box, and nonfiction works I Am Woman. Her recent book, My Conversation with Canadians, presents a series of reflections on the countless questions asked by Canadians to her over her writing career, all of them too big to answer, but not too large to contemplate. My Conversations with Canadians and a selection of her work will be available in the theater lobby for purchase, and Lee will be available to sign books after her talk. Please join me and welcome our very special guests today.
Go, Billy. I am so honored to perform with Bill. It was after Hayaluk, after the big tsunami, 100-foot wave clawing out the deepest sound in the world's Waterloo, my area. It was after the death of millions of us, men who were tossed into the sea in their boats, women who crawled up mountains trying to get away from the rising waters. It was after the ocean had receded. It was after the waters settled down. It was after the men started to return. I saw you coming back. The men were angry, so angry and so fearful. And fearful men who are angry want to war. There was only us, and so they warred with us. We ran into the bush, the women and children, and we hid on them. So they warred with other villages. And then one day, they did the unspeakable. They killed women and children. Raven became angry too. And she came to us and said, you have to do the dance of death. Those men killed creation. They cannot continue here. They must return to the spirit world and become clean and return and start again. And we grieved, but we agreed to do as Raven said. So the men came back and we told them, you must dance yourself to death. And they asked us for just one thing. After we have burnt and our bones are left over, gather them up in your apron and carry them next to your womb so that I can go home to my ancestors. And every year stir my bones with the bones of the nation so that I can join my family. I will walk into the fire because I love my grandchildren. I will walk into the fire because I love you. I will walk into the fire because I have defied creation. And so we built a fire a huge funeral pyre made of great giant cedars. And the men walked into it, screaming and dying. And we grieved for you again. I grieved for you. I watched you burn. I can hardly wait to gather your bones. And I put them in my apron, and we started to walk away because we couldn't stay here where we last saw you. I couldn't stay here where I last loved you. And so we walked, us women, carrying the bones and singing as we went. They rattle in a peculiar way, your bones. And I continued to love you all the way to Ohio. We carried you. You looked odd, but I decided to put you back together. I could not stop loving you. And so I took your bones and I stitched them one on one. Feet bones, ankle bones, knee bones. And I wanted to dance with you. I wanted to dance with you all eternity. And so we did. You look strange dancing like that, wobbling. I wasn't very good at putting you together, but I still love you. After all this time, I will always love you. I will always miss you, and I will always want to see you dance. So beautiful. Yeah. been making this art from the very beginning. Imagine what a country we would be had we done so. But now we have this great opportunity to create art together. And I'm so proud to be able to create art with my friend Bill. He also creates art with my children and my grandchildren. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry. I want to talk a little bit about the era that we live in. We have turned a page on Canadian history. And it was not easy to turn that page. When they formed the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, I said this: this is not going to be a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It's about voyeurism. In South Africa, in order to avoid prosecution, the guilty had to present what they did to hurt others. Not in this country. No one who was guilty had to make a presentation. No one was charged with crimes, though crimes were committed. And all kinds of people found out all kinds of things, not just the Truth and Reconciliation. But a young Canadian student in British Columbia found out that 3,000 children were experimented as subjects of starvation, and what it did to the brains of the children over a period of 10 years. So children were withheld food for 10 years as an experiment. I don't think that you knew that, nor did your ancestors. But the thing is this: well, this was happening to us all across this land. Your ancestors were being taught that we were inferior, stupid, lazy, drunken, unworthy beings. And that became my history. I went to your public schools 62 years ago. I took a beating 3 times a day, every day, for the first 5 years of my life. There are parts of my body that are destroyed by that history. There are parts of my psyche that have difficulty loving all of you. But I am a mountain. I am a river. I am a powerful being. And I get to it. I get to my love. I get to my love when I wake up. I get to my love when I look at you. I get to my love when someone sends me hate mail. And someone did the other day, you know. He said of my conversations that he wants to tell my employer that I think Canadians are scum. And that I should shut up. That I obviously should be doing more to teach our people our culture. That we are humble people. Well, he's not talking about the Stalo, but he is talking about Anishinaabe. Yes, they are. I am not. You can tell I'm not. Anyhow, I saw that he passed it on to my director of Indigenous Studies. And he asked her to pass it on to my dean. And she did. And he asked the dean to pass it on to the president. And he did. And I thought, oh my God, this guy's trying to get me fired. He has no idea how little this university pays me to do anything. This is not where I make my money. and how much I'd really like to retire. But I do a lot of free work for the university, so they're keeping me close. The president wrote me a letter and said, "Don't worry, Lee, I've informed the crisis manager, and she's going to make sure that you don't get cyberbullied." A page has turned. There was a time when I wasn't allowed on the podiums of festivals, even in my own home, Vancouver. And I wrote them and I said, "You should have me at this festival. I have a bestseller. It's called I Am Woman. It's a good book. It's a feminist book. You'd like it if you read it." And I said, "Besides, Sanok, False Creek is my home village. And they took it from us not even 80 years ago. So I belong on that podium." They didn't invite me. They said, "No, they don't have Indians coming to Vancouver Writers Festival. It's a very prestigious festival." And I thought, they don't think I'm prestigious. How silly of them. So I went there and I got on stage and started reading. And everybody got really quiet. But at the end, they gave me a standing ovation. And I smiled at the organizers and got off. Don't say no to me. I will go there. You can't write poetry about politics, so I wrote it some. You can't write novels about epidemics, so I wrote one. You can't write novels about healing, so I wrote one. You can't write novels with gay children in them and call them YA, so I wrote one. It got banned 20 years ago, but it's back. I had to do a little more politicking to get it back, but it's back. Our kids are now free. And this has been our plan all along. You know, we're a minority in this country. So we just say to ourselves, my grandpa says to me, we have to make them more like us. That's what we did. I was telling Margaret, went apologizing to her, because remember that big scandal, the Chancellor of Montreal says we were savages in 1600, and all the chiefs get all mad and tell him that's so racist. I said, well, I'm going to check. What did savage mean in 1600? It meant that you had free sex whenever you wanted, that you were homosexual whenever you wanted, that you had transgendered people everywhere, and that you showed skin. Whoa. So I look around my class, and all the girls, it's summer, right? So we all showing a little cleavage. Not much, I don't have much, but you know, I show what I got. So I wrote her a letter, because she said that we were probably brutish and mean. And I said, well, here's what the Jesuits say. That we were the kindest people they had ever come across to each other, but kill everybody else everywhere. Okay, I'll get you that. I'll grant you that. Neutrals were fighting the Wendats, were fighting the Haudenosaunee, were fighting the Anishinaabe. All right. But what was the 100-Year War all about? It was going on at the same time. Everybody was kind of fighting around at that time. But we were kind to each other. Not the case for Europe. Why do they call it coming out of the closet? Because there was a closet where their children and wives could be put and beat to death. 10% of the population of this country was murdered by the husbands and fathers of the very people, the women and children that were murdered. Imagine if 400,000 people in Toronto were murdered in the course of a year. We were horrified when we saw them. They murder their own. What a scary bunch of people. We got to change this around. And so we did eventually. The oldest democracy in the world is 1,000 years old. Belongs on this tract, the Haudenosaunee Six Nations Confederacy. It's now verified that it was 1,000 years old because there was some kind of comet passing by and some scientist who was listening to the story. Wait, that was 1,000 years ago. And they said, yes, we remember. And so now we know it's the first democracy. It also says respect for one another's culture. 6 nations respecting each other's culture, respecting each other's language. Nowhere did that exist till 1968 human rights. We've turned you all into a bunch of Indians. Now we're fit for getting along. Yeah. It was a great, great journey. All the women got together. Let's get them dancing and singing with us. Just kidding, Bill. This is where we're going now. We're coming together all over the country. We're going to braid each other's lives together and create something new. Not just for Indigenous people, but for everybody. For everybody. The Oxford dream of those Oxford men that started that university was to bring people together to study cultures from all over the world. We're not there yet. 1,000 years, and we're not there yet, but we have a chance. We have a chance to get there. I was inducted into the Order of Canada. Who knew? I didn't know there was actually work to that. But now they tell me I got to confer citizenship. And I said, ooh, I like that. Because the last time I went to a citizenship hearing to join people in discussions at the table, I didn't get to make a speech, but now I do. Because I'm an Order of Canada. So the deputy minister says, forget everything you learned from your own people. What? Here you are, 168 nations in Toronto, probably 100 nations in the Guelph area, all kinds of knowledge, all kinds of story, all kinds of art, all kinds of sensibilities, religions, philosophies. We could learn from that. We could put these things together. We could recreate the world. And Canada is fit for that. We could create intellectuals who have a powerful sense of cultural theory that embraces the people of the world that are right here. Intact memories, seeking to contribute to this great new land, because it is new now. The more democratic we become, the more artistic we become, the newer we become. In my language, art is a way of life that's new. Isn't that beautiful? This is what we can do together, all of us. I met a fellow not too long ago in Hamilton from Zimbabwe. And I said, I know this song, it's in Portuguese. And it's something about Angola. And he says, I know that song. He started to sing it, I could sing it along with him. And he says, that's a really nice tune, I really think it's a pretty tune. I said, yeah, it was catchy, I remembered it for 25 years. Da 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 da, ba 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 ba. And he says, let's put some new words to it. So we did. We created some poetry right there. 4 of us. Put some new words to it. We sang it. I don't know what happened to the song. You know, went the way of the guy, I guess. I'm not there in Hamilton. But it made me think we could do this through art. And I was already working with Bill, and we decided to start doing this kind of thing. Bringing together his dance and our story. It was a beautiful experience for me because it was a dream of my grandfather, Chief Dan George, long ago, to bring everybody together, to create art together, to create a way of life that is artistic for everyone. So here on this trip, I met Ida from Zambia, and I'm going to meet her daughter, and I'm going to help her to become a writer. And that makes me really, really overjoyed. I'm going to learn about Zambia. I'm going to experience her heart, her soul, her mind, and her creativity. There is nothing better. That's what we're here for. To create and recreate better and better and better. That's all I got to say to you right now, but I'm happy to answer questions. This is Maria Campbell's niece, by the way. Oh my God, I love Maria Campbell. Woo!
Okay, thank you. We're trying to find the lights. Sorry, I'm not in control of the lights. But thank you so much for sharing what you've shared with us this evening. I think there's so much to learn from that. We do have time for a couple questions. I think it'd be great. I know we have a lot of students. There's a lot of classrooms in the room, including some from my class. It'd be great if anybody had any questions, although staff and faculty, we welcome questions as well. We can run a mic to you. But yeah, these lights are... you can't actually see where people are. So I can't tell. Does somebody have their hand up? Somebody, that question. You have this amazing expertise in the room. I just read one of their books this summer for my class on, I did a reading class on Indigenous feminist theories, and I read I Am Woman, and just loved it. Amazing. And there was one quote in there that you had that kind of stuck with me with what I was thinking about on the decolonization will require the repatriation and rematriation of the knowledge by Native people themselves. And I think that's a lot of what you shared here with us today is the knowledge and the Indigenous knowledge that we can share that can help all of us here in Canada. And I know my students have heard me say before that, it's very clear we're all here. There's no going back.
There's no going back.
But how are we going to go forward?
Always go forward. I'm kind of neurotic about not going backward. Some guy gives me directions. He says, well, it's faster if you go backward. And I said, you have no idea how awful that sounds to me. I will go forward. It might be a harder journey, but I'm going forward. And that's what I say to you. I'm going forward with you. I'll be standing there nagging you until you come with me. You might as well come with me.
We do have a question over here. Thank you.
Thank you for your amazing talk, Lee. I was wondering, when you attend citizenship ceremonies, what do you share with new Canadians about Indigenous peoples?
Oh, well, they do have a little bit. They do get a little bit now. But I'm asking them to make relation with Indigenous peoples. I'm not going to tell them about us. I want them to be with us. And I want them to know that I don't want them to know about us, because nothing about us without us. That's what I want them to know. Thank you. I want them to go to the centers where you have Indigenous people. On every campus there's Indigenous centers. In every major city there's a Native center. There's all kinds of activities going on in the arts community, and all kinds of theater going on, all kinds of dance going on. I mean, Bill's always busy with Indigenous people. Go there and find out and get to know us. We were once a very scary people, and chapter 1 of Conversations talks about that. We used to sing and kill people with it, We don't do that anymore. I don't think, anyway. At least I don't. So, get to know us. We're interesting. I'm interested.
All right, do we have another question back here?
Lee, thank you for that talk and performance. That was amazing. You just mentioned going forward, and you're at Innovation U in Canada. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about, when I say innovation, you may take it more, you may ground that in some ways and think about social media, artificial intelligence, the guy next to me with his cell phone, anything you have to say about technological innovation and your perspective on it.
I love technology. I saw my first computer when I was 28. It was a laptop, and it could do 6 things. Well, I wanted one of them. I'm a writer. I started off on a manual typewriter. I moved to an electric typewriter, and then I moved to a computer. And I'm not very techno-savvy, but my kids and grandkids are making movies, and they make movie sets for plays. I mean, they're doing all kinds of things with technology that couldn't be done before. So I love technology. I will say that point blank. But it's scary what some of that technology is doing. And I think we haven't got a handle on what we want to use it for. So we need to do that at some point. And we need to think about what we're allowing to happen in our name. You know, where I come from, you can't just do things. Someone says, I want to build a big apartment block. Go ahead. Somewhere in New York, right? Not here. We don't do that here. So we're very clear about certain things. High-rises don't belong in Vancouver. They've got a lot of them. But if there's an earthquake along the San Andreas Fault, they're all dead. 2 million people into the river. So you got to be careful what you're doing when you build something, when you create something. You got to think about it. But that's not what we're doing right now. I think if we gathered together more and talked to each other more, and we looked at innovation and technology as sociologically driven, not profit driven, then it would be different. I am not profit driven. You're not either. I like you.
Thank you for your talk. My question is, what does healing the nation look like? What's your perspective on how we need to heal the nation?
I think Braveheart Bull, the lady in, a woman in Lakota territory wrote a book on it. Does anybody know this book? It's about healing the nation. What hurt us was separating us from our knowledge base and from our language. I don't know if you know this, but your body carries your mother tongue. If your mind speaks English and your body speaks Halkamilam, you cannot communicate with yourself. And you will get sick, develop autoimmune diseases, and you will begin to die. That's what's happening to us now. So we're picking up the language, and that's making us well. I tell you, on my Facebook is my family talking about kicking the butt of Kinder Morgan. The young ones are so beautiful. There's my niece. She looks like 16 and she's almost 50. And I think, holy crap, I wish I still looked like that. She's healthy. The rest of us that are older than her are terrible beside her. Because we went to residential school or public schools. We're not able to even sing our songs, let alone speak our language. I remember darkening the windows during ceremony, sitting at a high table. My daughter bought a high table like this, and she says, look, you can sit on these bar stools. She says, I do not want that table in my house. I know that table. We used to drape a canvas over it get a Chinese wok, throw some hot rocks in it, and have sweats under that table. I don't want that. We'll have our sweats outside where they belong. Because we were hiding. I'm not hiding anything anymore. So that is making us better. It's making our children better. And it's making them fight in a different way. I was so angry as a young person. But my nephews and my young cousin there, they're not angry at you. They're saying, come join us. Stop Kinder Morgan. We're doing this for love of you. My nephews say, and I want to weep. Because it's so beautiful to have back the humanity we had a couple hundred years ago. We have it back. That's picking up our culture, getting back our humanity. The great Frantz Fanon said, this is a fight for our humanity or it isn't worth doing. That's it. That's healing the nation. Thank you.
Yahweh, thank you,
Yeah,
Lee.
yep.
So my question is sort of about our university. So we are undergoing an indigenization strategy at our university. And I think I can speak on behalf of most of the Indigenous students. We don't know how to get the administration to really listen to what we say. And I'm wondering if you have any advice on how you got your president to listen to you.
I'm smarter than him. First of all, I started off, I said, first we're going to start with truth, sir, Mr. Gurkel and Naylor, the one before him. And the truth is this, that we already influenced you 4 times. We just need one more round, and you will be human. That's it. And then he says, I don't understand, because they never do, right? And I start talking about, well, you didn't wash when you came here. Who doesn't shower now? And where did you get that? From Indigenous people. They are so savage, what's his name, Champlain said, that they remove all their clothes and jump in the water. They are so dirty that someone will do this twice a day. Huh. Interesting how you get dirty in England. It's not how you get dirty here. Not washing gets you dirty here. You're in a different country now. You have to shower every day. So that's the first influence. And that made for good health. It was a possibility of good health. We brought that. The second is the medicine. The use of medicine. And the third is our beautiful storytelling tradition. And that influenced a fellow named Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was an indigenist. You should look up that. He called himself that. An indigenous anarchist, he said. He is influenced by indigenous people and their storytelling and their different sense of governance. So that's another influence that we had. And then we said, we're getting the vote, along with Tommy Douglas. And we're going to vote NDP when we do get that vote. Because that's who gave it to us. That's who said they'd stick up for us, and he did. So that was the 4th time. But now it's facing ourselves. Truth, sir, Mr. Gurkel. That's what you need to face. And so this is what he said to me. We can't build you a university because you don't have the numbers. I said, you should never have taught me to read. Because I read a book called The History of University of Toronto. You should read it sometime. You had an English department for 25 years with a full complement of professors and not a single student. You did not have any numbers. We have 500 times that. So get us our university. Do not say no to us now. Your legacy will be that you touched off a diplomatic war that's going to last 25 years if I live that long, and I plan to. And I haven't lost a battle yet. Who got my family to sue Kinder Morgan? I did. Who got my family to break the law to get our fishing rights? I did that too. Who got my family sobered up? 22 siblings. I have 22 siblings. We're not small potatoes on the West Coast. Who got us in education? I got student funding. I talked to Mr. Trudeau the last time, and I got core funding and student funding for Indigenous people. Someday I'll write stories about all that. Very funny how it happened. Very odd. It was the 60s. Odd people. We had a 27-year-old governor, what do you call it? Solicitor General. We're sitting in a protest, and he says, "What's going on?" I say, "The youth got kicked out of the meeting, and I'm trying to figure out how to get them back in." And then I realized, wait a minute, you don't sound like an Indian. "Oh, no, you're a white guy. What are you doing here, white guy?" He says, "I am the Solicitor General of Canada, Jean-Paul Collier." And I said, "I don't know what that is." And he says, "Well, I'm part of the cabinet, Trudeau's cabinet." "Oh, well, shut my mouth." He says, "I want you to talk to Chrétien." I said, "You'll have to get me a flight or bring him out here because I don't have any money." They flew me there, and I'm talking to Chrétien, and Trudeau pokes his head in and says, "I got $1 million in my left ass hip pocket and $1 million in my right. What would you do with it?" Easy as that. Not so easy now, as you know. But talking to your president is as easy as that. So get smart about Guelph. Find out the truth about Guelph. It's sitting on 6 nations' land. So that's the first thing. Give something back. They got ahead because we got behind. That's the truth. That's where you begin. And what does he want to do about it? So, my president doesn't want to be humiliated by me. They were going to give Senator Sinclair the honorary Doctor of Laws. And the first time they wanted to give somebody an honorary Doctor of Laws, they asked me if I would join them, and I said, no, not joining anyone who's a womanizer and a philanderer. Oh, so then he phones me. Is, Murray Sinclair a philanderer? No, he's a nice fat Ojibwe. He's a nice man. Okay, would you give him an honorary doctorate? I would. You see? You got to put yourself in the shining light. You've got to put yourself in the roadway. They can't get by me if I put myself on the way. So there I am talking about this and about how I didn't support the Truth and Reconciliation Commission because it didn't begin with truth. And we're still struggling with that at this university. We still have a hard time looking at the truth. We have a hard time facing ourselves. We're Canadians. We like denial. That's what we like. Paint it over really nice and rosy. Don't talk about it. That's what we like. So I'm there to say, I'm peeling back the onion. You do the crying all the way if you like, but you will hear the truth. And then we'll start the reconciliation process from there. And so Sinclair changes his talk. Ooh, he starts making notes as I'm introducing him. Changes his talk. Truth is where to begin. So you need to know the truth of this. We need to do the hard work to read the history of the University of Guelph here. Yeah? And you need to then move on from there. Or Waterloo, actually, isn't it? Sorry. Whatever. But you need to know the truth about this area and need to move from there. Yeah, we're doing things with Massey College. I'm a fellow there. I don't know how I get to be a fellow. It's like, that's a guy. But anyway, I'm a fellow, and we have a deal with New Credit, and the chief of New Credit knows exactly what he wants. So you got to get that clear too, what exactly it is you want. I don't know about indigenization. I think you need an Indigenous Studies program that is right to the PhD. Is that what you need? Yeah. And it needs to welcome everybody into its folds. Because here's the thing. Now, some people say you've got to be Indigenous by blood to belong to the Treaty of the Dish with One Spoon. It doesn't say that in the Treaty of the Dish with One Spoon. So why are we saying it? I will welcome you to Stalo territory on the condition of my great uncle who said, everybody here is Squamish, to the archivist. Just some of you are really bad at it. We want you to get good at it. That's what a nation is. That's what a nation is. So if we're a First Nation, then you're as entitled to belong to it as to the other nation, the big one. Or you can have dual citizenship. You could be like Donis Kennedy. I belong to Canada and I belong to the Anishinaabe Nation. I have two heritages. You can do that too. You can learn an Indigenous language. You can find out what this land was like before you came. We can do whole dissertations and master's degree on it. We can study this area and find out what the land wants. Yeah? All kinds of things. So, first learn the truth, and then talk about what you need for reconciliation. Does that help? Be poignant. Do not hold back. Doesn't help. Thank you very much. One last comment. I want to make one last comment before I go. My grandfather was asked to sing and dance for Canada's birthday in 1967. He said, "Can I speak?" They said no. So he was furious, and my dad says, "Well, just write a poem and we'll sing, and you recite the poem." You can hear it on CBC. It's called Lament for Confederation. But at the time, the guys that are the newsmen are saying, "I thought he wasn't supposed to talk." Yeah, he's not supposed to talk. Is he talking or is he actually singing? It is kind of lyrical. Do what you want to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's just amazing. I feel so lucky to be able to have Lee here. Potentially, we do have time for one more question if anybody has a burning question. One
there.
here at the back.
Hi.
I graduated with your daughter as well.
Woohoo! Yay!
I'm in the process right now of creating a truth blanket.
Oh, nice.
So I was just wondering if you mind if I talk to you about it, even over Facebook as we're creating it here.
Sure.
Cool.
Sir, it's a quilt, right?
Yeah, we're doing.
I'm a quilter.
Woo! We need you.
Yeah. I'm
But
good
we
at
have
it.
we have two blankets. One is for newcomers,
Yep.
and one is for Indigenous folks living here, so that
Alright.
we can tell truth through the blankets and then
Yeah.
build storytelling from it.
Excellent.
So-
Last blanket I made was for Tom King. I was with him in Vancouver and I was telling Dion about a blanket I was making for somebody else. And he said, "I don't have a blanket from you." You know how you guys pout. And I said, well, Tom, I have to honor you. You don't like that sort of thing. Go talk to my wife. I want a blanket from you. I said, okay. And then I went home and realized, holy crap, it's got to be a king-size blanket. Why did I say yes to that? But anyway, I did do it.
Thank you. This time I'd like to invite up Catherine Dallaire, who is, I'm honored, she's a colleague of ours here at the University of Waterloo. She's a Métis artist, and she was the creator of the poster that everybody saw for this. And we have
Hi, Scott. Now the pity that all those flowers that we beat are actually Métis art. Yeah. Thank you very much. By the way, Jamie Black, a Métis artist, did the cover for Conversations, with my Conversations with Canadians.
Okay, and for Phil and Bill, we also have gifts. Thank you.
Woohoo!
I would also like to give a plug in that my experience here at this university was although there may not be a lot of Indigenous colleagues and students at this campus, we certainly have some amazingly talented, artistically talented, academically talented, and we really try to draw on that when we can with our gifts and engagement here at the campus. So I thank them all for doing and providing the gifts for this. So at this time, I would just like to thank everybody for coming out. This is our biggest turnout ever, and you know, if you enjoyed this, if you want to hear more of it, and I hear this from the students in my class, I mentioned it's the first Intro to Indigenous Studies class. There's about 40 students registered. Most are non-Indigenous. I find that they're very interested and wanting to learn and coming to the table, and I sincerely appreciate that. If you want more of this, tweet about it, ask the university to provide more opportunities like this for yourselves and for your faculty members as well. So please join me. After Lee is going to have a few minutes to sign some books, and then she has to run off to another engagement. So we feel very lucky to have her for the few moments we did, but please, one more round of applause, and thank you everybody for coming out.